1897. These were the symbols of telecommunication services in Uganda. Uganda Posts and Telecommunications Corporation, a public entity delivering postal and telephony services. Following NRM government's adoption of liberal economic policies in the late 1980s, Parliament enacted the Communications Act 1997 to unbundle the posts and telecommunications sector so as to improve the quality of services and efficiency in telecommunication services, which would make the country attractive for private sector investment and global competitiveness. The Act provided for the incorporation of Uganda Telecom Limited, Postbank Uganda Limited, and Uganda Posts Limited. Uganda Communications Commission was created as a self-accounting agency with a mandate to set communication standards, licensing operators, manage competition, and assign and monitor communication spectrum. The mandate gave UCC jurisdiction over Celtel, which had already been in the market offering mobile cellular services from 1995. In 1998, UCC effectively started operations with the review and licensing of MTN Uganda Limited as the second national telecommunications operator with limited exclusivity. The licensing required setting terms and conditions for the national telecom operator. Limited exclusivity was meant to attract telecommunications infrastructure investment in a growing telecommunications sector. It offered MTN limited exclusivity license as a national operator to roll out a minimum coverage across the country, spectrum and numbering resources, applicable regulatory fees, applicable rate regulation regimes, rights of way issues, as well as interconnection and numbering frameworks. In 2001, UCC issued a national telecom operator license to UTL in partial completion of the Uganda Post and Telecommunications Company unbundling process. MTN and UTL licenses had rights of first refusal in the servicing of underserved population centers, setting on tariffs and pricing. In 2001, the Rural Communications Development Fund Act was enacted as the Rural Regions Fast Access Fund. It provided for obligatory contribution from licensed operators into a fund which would finance extension of services to underserved areas. The Executive Director UCC provides administrative oversight and is the fund's accounting officer. Later in 2003, the first Rural Communications Fund policy was formulated. It provided for strategic and policy guidance to Universal Access Fund. The key priority under the 5-year policy cycle included provision of public access points and extension of basic telephone coverage services in underserved areas during the 5-year exclusivity regime. This included establishment of public pay phones in underserved areas, GSM sites, public internet cafes, and health centers connectivity. 10 years after, in 2010, the second RCDF policy was adopted. It provided for connection of over 1,000 schools, making ICT an examinable subject. The policy also enabled connection of local council administrations across the country. The emerging importance of wireless technologies in the early 2000s meant that effective management of radio spectrum became strategic priority for the Commission. As such, significant effort was dedicated towards staff skilling and the acquisition of technical equipment or infrastructure for the delivery of UCC's mandate in frequency management. The Commission acquired a number of fixed and mobile monitoring tools to facilitate the planning, management, and monitoring of the use of radio spectrum. The FRMS are operated remotely with the main control center at UCC House in Bugolobi, allowing the UCC to remotely collect and analyze spectrum usage and occupancy data as well as undertake direction finding measurements. Later in 2012, increase in number of radio and TV broadcasters as well as wireless signal coverage necessitated the acquisition of new fixed remote monitoring stations in Gulu and Barara to reinforce the Commission's radio spectrum monitoring effort. Uganda has been privileged to serve on global ICT bodies like the International Telecommunications Union Governing Council, to which it was elected in 2002 to 2006 cycle in Marrakesh, Morocco. 8 years later, in 2014, Uganda was again elected to serve on the same council in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. It gave an opportunity to participate in global innovation leadership, like crafting new agenda for emergent fields like fintech, artificial intelligence and smart cities, among others. As the period of exclusivity was coming to an end, in 2005, a number of regulations were put in place to manage fair competition, regulate interconnection fees, tariff and accounting, as well as numbering. In 2006, the sector was recognized as a key pillar of functioning liberalized sector. It was accorded full ministry status in line with the Commission's statutory mandate to administer national numbering and electronic addressing plans. UCC changed the significant number length from 8 to 9 digits, increasing the numbers available for use by a single network from 1 to 10 million. This was done to accommodate new demand for numbering resources by new entrants and the need to align Uganda's national numbering plan with international numbering regimes. Later in 2012, the Commission issued guidelines on content services and application so as to protect consumer interests in texting and multimedia messaging. In 2006, UCC issued short code guidelines to harmonize codes across operators for services like emergency calls, customer helplines, among others. By 2007, UCC embarked on aligning quality of service standards and parameters in the growing market of new wireless technologies. The Commission acquired technical equipment and developed a set of technical end-user indicators and targets for the industry, such as call drop rates, average success rates, call block rate billing accuracy, service positioning timelines, and complaint redress timelines. In 2006, UCC opened up new bands and redesigned incumbent spectrum bands to promote competitive new entry and optimal spectrum usage. This move opened up the airwaves that brought in new entrants such as Hits, Smile and Worried Telecoms. At the end of 2009, UCC unveiled a new home, a 6th-floor office block at Bugolobi. Up until 2010, telecom operators determined their own interconnection rates. In order to protect consumers from arbitrary charging of interconnection fees and operators' abuse of incumbent power, UCC issued the industry's first interconnection rate of 131 shillings. This rate has since dropped to 65 shillings. In a move to support and encourage innovationists in ICT, in 2010, UCC launched the first industry's annual communications awards, SCIA. The inaugural event attracted over 60 participants, showcasing a range of applications in health, academia, logistics, and agriculture, among others. The awards, that ran for 7 years, was subsequently adopted by the National ICT Incubation Program under the Ministry of ICT. In January 2012, UCC completed outstanding financial obligations for Communications House at Plot 1, Colville Street. The global advent of convergence of technologies in the ICT industry dictated merging broadcasting and telecommunications. It is in that regard that the Uganda Communications Act of 2013 created merger of then Broadcasting Council and Communications Commission into a single platform. To harness the potential of the rapidly growing creative industry, UCC launched the Uganda Film Festival in 2013. The annual festival is a week-long celebration of the local creative industry, which includes expert training in cinematography, content distribution, and public screening, climaxing into an awards gala. In a move to create transparency and ensure consumer protection in a rapidly growing technology service sector, UCC launched a call center which provides a toll-free customer service. It is manned by a multilingual team fluent in all major languages spoken across Uganda. Growth in the radio and television broadcast sector necessitated transition from analog to digital monitoring. UCC acquired and installed a digital logger to provide real-time recording capacity and content storage for 100 FM stations and 20 television stations. This provides a point of reference in broadcast compliancy. The demand for more responsive regulatory presence beyond Kampala led to the opening of new offices in 4 regional towns of Mbarara, Gulu, Masindi and Mbale in 2014. In order to enhance the ICT leverage in promoting cross-border trade within the region, UCC and partner regulators in Kenya, Rwanda and South Sudan adopted a framework for regional roaming within member states. One network area roaming framework, which was approved by the Northern Corridor Head of State, in 2015, following a series of consultation with stakeholders in the broadcast industry, UCC developed new operating procedures and guidelines for coverage of live events. This included installation of obligatory delayed broadcast capabilities to address issues like inappropriate language and hate speech in live broadcasts. 2014 saw the inauguration of consumer public engagements dubbed the Communications Consumer Parliament. The forum provides an opportunity for the consumer and advocacy groups to demand accountability from the regulator and service providers about the quality of service. The Consumer Parliament has travelled across regional towns like Gulu, Mbale, Kabarole, Jinja and Bara. In 2015, with support from ITU, UCC established the Computer Emergency Response Team, CERT. The CERT is aimed at enhancing sector capacity to identify and respond to cyber threats in the sector. The emergence of fintech like mobile money created a need for a collaborated regulatory regime. The Commission sought to realign its strategic partnership with the Central Bank and has since formalized this relationship through a Memorandum of Understanding. The Memorandum of Understanding guidance on the treatment of cross-jurisdictional issues of mobile financial services like licensing, competition, network security, identification, and interoperability, among others. In 2017, Parliament amended the Uganda Communications Act 2013. It provided the minister responsible for communication some degree of flexibility with respect to the passing of sector regulations. These regulatory interventions have resulted into the following market and industry gains. Growth in mobile and fixed subscription from less than 50,000 active lines in 1996 to 24 million in 2018. Improvements in SIM card registration and digital KYC. Attraction to global brands. 99% FM signal coverage, more than 200 licensed FM stations. Completion of analog to digital migration. Over 40 free-to-air TV channels. More than 90% population coverage with basic cellular network signal. Over 22 million mobile money accounts. A network of more than 160 agents. Consistent drops in end-user communication tariffs over the last 15 years. Increased innovation in services and products. To date, MNOs provide diversified portfolios in voice, data, mobile money and value-added services.